Thanks, Kartik. So hello, everyone. I'll just give a quick intro of myself, and then we'll intro each of the panelists and jump straight into our panel topic. And then we'll leave some questions to the end for the audience if you have any. Right, so a bit about me. So previously I was part of the Aave Genesis team. I think I was the fifth engineering hire at Aave companies. And then since then, I've been part of the Aave grant style as a reviewer. And then also now I'm building my own company called X23, where we apply large language models to Web3 data. So that's me, and I'll be facilitating this chat. I will now call on Figue to give an intro. Just a quick intro about yourself and background.
Yep. Hello, everyone. I'm one of the co-founders of Paladin. We actually started in the Aave hackathon 3 years ago, so time flies by. And I also happen to be on the Aave liquidity committee. So yeah.
Awesome, Andrew.
Yeah. So my name is Andrew. I'm a developer relations engineer at Aave Labs. I actually have a very similar story to Figue. My launch in Web3 career was actually 3 years ago at an ETH Global Hackathon, hacking on the Aave protocol. And yeah, nowadays I work on documentation, developer support, hackathons, anything related to developer relations for Aave and Go.
Awesome. Finally, Pol.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Pol. I worked with Andrew and David in Aave a few years ago. Then now for a few years I've been working on BGT. Lately, mainly working on the new governance v3.
Awesome, very cool. So I think we've got a good covering of the space, at least the Aave protocol space on the panel. So I'll go through some questions to dive in a bit deeper. Maybe let's start with Andrew about, let's say, your Aave companies. So maybe give us an overview of how Aave, the new Aave governance and Go interact, and sort of what significance does Aave governance have with the Go stablecoin?
Yeah. So Aave governance plays a very pivotal role with the Go stablecoin. I would actually highly encourage people to go to Etherscan and look at the actual Go token source code, because you might be surprised at how critical a role governance plays. Because essentially the Go token has this concept of buckets, and a facilitator has a bucket level and they're able to mint Go up to a certain level. And basically all of those decisions about what facilitators are enabled and what bucket capacities they have are all controlled by Aave governance. And I'm sure we'll dive into the panel specifically about the features of Aave governance that have been developed in the recent months that kind of lead to more participation. But at a high level, Aave governance basically controls the Go stablecoin supply, and also within the context of the Aave protocol, also has control over the interest rate mechanism and the different parameters that have to deal with supplying collateral and borrowing the Go token. So essentially, every aspect of the Go token is controlled by Aave governance.
Okay, awesome. That's a good overview, and yeah, we'll definitely dive a bit deeper into those details a bit later. But let's say just touching on that, the interaction between governance and Go. How are the changes made to, let's say, Go parameters at the moment, Andrew?
Yeah, so Go parameters basically follow the exact same governance process as the core Aave protocol. So Aave has a very structured process for essentially how something goes from an idea to actually being executed on chain. The Aave documentation goes through in detail basically all of the steps involved, from basically posting on governance forum, getting feedback, to snapshot, to an actual on-chain vote. And now with Aave Governance v3, actually having voting on cross-chain, so being able to vote on networks other than Ethereum mainnet, while still having Ethereum mainnet be like the executor of Aave governance. So essentially that's how governance proposals come to the community, is through this process of Aave governance, which has on-chain and off-chain components. And once they reach that final stage of on-chain execution, that's when actual parameter changes are made to Go.
Awesome. And most of the governance changes, they'll start on governance.aave.com, right?
Yes, exactly. That's
usual,
the governance forum. And yeah, that's the main way to introduce ideas to the community.
Okay, perfect. And just quickly before I ask another question to another panelist, what do you want to see built by devs related to Go?
Yeah, so we have a lot of exciting prize tracks, payments, facilitators, vaults, and integrations. And really at a high level, the projects that I think we're looking for are trying to boost the adoption and understanding of Go. Currently, Go can be minted on-chain, but it's kind of limited as to what you can actually do with this token. Because it is a stablecoin, it has a lot of utility for different payment use cases, or basically any on-chain action which involves transferring value. But right now, it just doesn't have a lot of adoption or understanding or people excited about the unique properties of Go. So definitely trying to highlight what makes Go unique, and then also get it in the hands of users by building really nice looking and functional applications.
Awesome. Andrew is also one of the judges for the hackathon as well. So if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and we'll go through them a bit later. All right, so moving on. So Pol works for BGD Labs, and they were the creators of the Gov v3. So Pol, how about give us a quick overview of what's new in Governance v3 for Aave?
Yeah, so basically, maybe like first on Governance v2, to have a bit of context, like you had all the process in Ethereum, right? Like you created the proposals there, you voted there, and they get executed. Then once we started deploying on new networks, on some of them we had bridges using the native bridges to move the result of the voting to there, so there it could be executed and the changes could be done in the protocol and so on, right? But this could only be done in some cases, and some others was controlled by multisig. So this was kind of not fully decentralized, right? So the way of V3 now, what we have is a fully decentralized system where in all the networks where Aave is deployed, it's controlled by the governance on Ethereum. So basically it's using Ethereum as a kind of settlement layer, while using the other networks that are cheaper or maybe more optimized and so on to vote. So this way you have, like, Aave can subsidize the vote, so it's even free to vote on those networks, right? Like we already have had 3 proposals with more users voting there. Even if their balance is lower, they can vote because it's not expensive to do it. So we expect more participation on this. So this is one part of it, like creating the proposals on Ethereum, voting on Polygon, and executing on Optimism maybe. And then we also have another important part, that is we have an increase in voting assets. With this new system, we have a way of utilizing the full balance of Aave. So before you could only vote with Aave and stake Aave, right? But now we are also adding Aave. In the future, we will probably add more flavors of Aave. So everyone that uses Aave in any kind of other protocol can still use their balance. So we don't lose people to vote. Other new things is, for example, we have now a representative system because, for example, safe wallets, smart contracts that have balances and so on, they can choose a representative to vote for them in another network. This way, it's another way of fully utilizing balances that are somewhere that could not actively vote before. So this would be the governance system, and this also works because we created a multi-chain system that we call the Aave delivery infrastructure, which basically is an aggregator of bridges that have different consensus in the different networks. This is a way of removing part of the centralization of the bridges, so we don't actually have to trust a single bridge, right? Like we don't have a point of failure. So for example, on Polygon, we are using CCIP, we are using layer 0, Hyperlane, and the native bridge, right? So once a message to start a vote goes to Polygon, it gets reached by the 4, and then a consensus of 3 or 4 is done on Polygon to check that the messages are actually correct. So once this is done, the vote gets started. Yeah. So basically, I think it's a big overview of how this works.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yes, yeah, so I guess in summary, it's like more decentralization and then better participation by more people, make it easier or cheaper for everyone to participate.
Yeah.
Out of interest, you said there was more participation for the recent proposals. What layers or chains were getting more got the most participation? Do you know?
For now, I think the 3 of the 4 proposals that we have had since New Year's, in fact, the last week, the vote has been on Polygon, because right now the only active voting networks are Polygon, Avalanche, and Ethereum. We always have Ethereum just in case all the breaches and all the other networks get hacked or whatever, it doesn't work. You can always vote on the same network and then activate a flag that will, there's an oracle that will signal on the other network, which enables some way of saving the situation. But yeah. So all the current proposals have been voted on Polygon. And if in the last 2-3 proposals on the old system, we had around 15 people voting, mostly delegators. In the current ones, we have had like 30 something voters. A lot of them voting with one token, like 1 token, 2 tokens, something like this, which is quite nice.
Yeah, very cool. And that's probably important information for the hackers as well, to know that most of the votes are happening on Polygon for V3. So it's important to deploy to Polygon if you want to experiment with Gov V3. So what are some things that devs can build on top of or integrate with the new governance V3 that you'd like to see? Maybe related to Go in some way.
Currently, for example, in my opinion, like we are missing a bit of visibility on representation. Like it's very good. Like we have the full delegation system and the new representation system and so on, right? But we don't have visibility on who is representing who, how much of the votes are being represented by someone, this kind of stuff, right? Which I think is quite useful.
That's sort of like analytics type stuff.
Yeah. This, and then maybe some mechanic to reward participation, to increase it would be nice. Maybe with Go. Yeah, I don't know. This would be good, I think. Like basically around building stuff around increasing participation in governance, which is quite important. It can be about visibility of the proposals, on trying to explain in a better way what this proposal is doing, what the effects will be, this kind of stuff, right? Because most of the proposals are like quite technical, like increasing the interest rates of some token somewhere or whatever, like that you need a degree in mathematics to understand.
Yeah,
this would be kind of cool. Yeah.
Okay, got it. So yeah, I guess there's a lot of experimentation that could be had with making governance more fun, I guess. Fun for voters. All right, that's cool. Moving on to Figue. So you mentioned you were on the the liquidity, helping with the peg, restore the peg for Go. So I guess one of the, let's say, elephant in the rooms is with the Go depeg, or with the current price of Go. Can you quickly explain sort of what happened and how is it being restored currently?
Yeah, sure. So maybe just to add something, I not only did we start at an Aave hackathon, but we're also an Aave grant recipient. So maybe some interesting conversation on this too. But to get back to the peg, more globally, right now, what happens that Go was launched, it needed a bit more features to ensure stability, especially because it's a very popular tool, considering that Aave is a popular app. There's a lot of inflows that happened. But with the interest rates that rose around treasury bonds, what happened was that there were more interesting ways to farm than just holding gold. So a lot of people were basically minting it because it was one of the easiest and cheapest ways to mint it. They were selling it for other assets. So what we've been doing in the liquidity committee for starters was creating new incentive strategies to basically create deeper liquidity both for people to buy and to sell into the goal. This is not just simple 50-50 pairs, but more complicated liquidity shaping that was led by Token Breeze on the committee in order for us to have liquidity without biasing it towards what was happening in terms of transfers. And the second thing we've done a lot is creating incentives to basically have more gold that is parked in it. Meanwhile, we get first stability module that's coming and then the new interest rates. So it's a progressive thing. You can't just solve it one way. What we're really happy about is that when the committee really started strengthening, especially around Token Breeze, we were able to invert the trend from deviating from the peg back to deviating towards it. So it's a progressive thing. Hopefully, it will be done in a few weeks, if not a few months at best. But we're getting really close to it, and at that point, once it goes back to $1, it will be able to shine as much as it's supposed to.
Awesome. That's an awesome overview. So essentially, it was around deepening the liquidity for people that wanted to swap in and out of Go. Am I getting that right?
It's one part of it. It's deepening the liquidity, but more than that, it's creating what we call healthy liquidity. Because what happens is that if people provide a lot of liquidity, but you have sell pressure, you end up at some point where there's 90% that's skewed towards against Go. So it's extremely hard for people to swap out efficiently. That's the first part. And the second part is the way you want to skew liquidity is a way to incentivize the behavior. So you want to reward people who are going to buy Go, and you want to, I don't want to say punish, but you want to prevent people from selling too much Go at every time. So right now it's entirely liquid, right? Just to be clear. But we basically created a system that rewards people who are moving back or who are actually moving into Go.
Okay, so incentivizing, moving into Go. That's a pretty powerful thing. And you've received a Aave grants. Oh yeah, you're receiving an Aave grant from the Aave grants DAO for that work, which is awesome. But
no, it's not for that work. Yeah, it's not for that work. It's we at Paladin we built a protocol that's called Julahan. That's an optimizer on top of Go. So it's basically the cheapest place for people to mint Go. The way we do is we socialize the stake Aave. So people who have stake Aave can come in and deposit it on our platform. And people who own Go, who want Go, can basically come and mint it on our platform. And unless you're a huge stake Aave holder, it's probably going to be cheaper on our platform. What we're trying to build with this is I want to call it Aave Premium Club in a sense, where it's going to be the cheapest place for people to access Go simply by using the unionized stake Aave.
Got it. Unionized stake Aave. I like it. Very cool. With that in mind, what do you think devs can build to help with restoring the Go peg? Like, what would you like to see?
That's a really good question. No, it's actually a really good question because Go is built in a manner where long term there's going to be hundreds of opportunities around it. It's also harder as right now Aave as a DAO is the only I don't think it's Guardian the right name, but the only one that owns buckets and that can actually mint Go. That's I think is an important part because it limits the thing we can experiment around interest rates, around different lending types, etc. I do think what will help the most Go is the generic answer will be just building cool shit. But the truth is that we need to build more global actual use cases for Go. Simply like people can hold and use Go as much as they want. The closer we get to you can mint, you can basically just deposit your crypto assets on Aave and mint, or even without minting it like in a flash style, pay your rent, pay your groceries, etc. That's the closer you get to quote unquote mass adoption. And I think anyone in crypto dreams of being able to use Go that way.
Yep, that's a really good point. Andrew, I think you had an idea that you wanted to chime in as well.
Yeah, actually, I think that's a really good segue to say like the utility of Go comes from essentially what you're able to do with it, how you're actually able to utilize it, both within the world of blockchain, cryptocurrency, Web3, and also just in day-to-day life. And I think that that's, one of the big things that will help Go long term is essentially just becoming more, abundant in the applications which you can actually utilize it for, and also emphasizing why Go is unique compared to not only other stablecoins but different types of payment currencies that exist today. So I think really the big thing which differentiates Go is essentially that it's tied natively to the Aave protocol. And the Aave protocol has a very flexible way to essentially collateralize different tokens and then borrow Go. So as Figue mentioned, the Aave facilitator is currently the only live facilitator, but we do have bounty tracks to essentially try to get people to build new types of facilitators and also new types of integrations with the Aave facilitator. And I think that those two things are really what differentiates Go and makes it really attractive to build on, is the fact that it is tied so closely to this Aave liquidity protocol, which offers all of these features that have been developed over the years and all of this infrastructure for governance.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess touching on that, we want hackers to build cool shit essentially with utilizing Go, and then also some ideas around, let's say, facilitators either becoming facilitators or integrating with the facilitators. And any alpha to share on that, whether Andrew or Figue or Pol, on like how should the hackers be thinking about facilitators? Whether should they even try to become a facilitator, or should they try to integrate, or what sort of steps should be taken? Anyone wants to jump in?
I'm down. I'm probably not gonna give the most governance proper answer. I'm gonna give like the idealistic one, in the sense that I'm not saying Paladin wants to become a facilitator, but I think Aave should strive to have as many facilitators as it can at some point. There's a ton of risk management considerations, of course, but if Aave is building a new stablecoin and even a new currency eventually, and wants to become the central bank for it, the only model is to have multiple hundreds and hundreds of banks that are actually around it, that are going to enable it to become bigger and bigger. Aave is big, it has a crazy reach, and that's why so many people are here. But that's why I'm here, and that's why all of us are here, right? But we need much more than this if we want to deeply ingrain Go and Aave into the ecosystem as a whole. There's a ton of things that can be played around. I think one that hasn't been talked about a lot, it's probably something between credit delegation and what Go can do, especially because if you're minting Go with another stablecoin, you can actually do it at a high LTV. So you could do high credit delegation with very low liquidation risk, which creates some really interesting things you can do between different accounts and with different partners. So yeah,
that's a good idea actually. So for those that don't know, credit delegation is one of the features in Aave. It's not used as much as it should be, but I recommend the hackers really look into credit delegation. It's a pretty cool feature, especially if you socialize the credit in some way. It's really cool. Andrew, I think you had some ideas around facilitators as well.
Yeah, so I mean, what Figue said at the beginning about how that's not really the governance approach to basically you want to create all of these different facilitators, and I would actually counter by saying that I think that is probably the most optimal approach for Aave governance, in the sense that anytime a new facilitator is added to Go, essentially there is a risk and a reward, and really the role of Aave governance is essentially to minimize the risk and maximize the reward. And I think how you do that is essentially building systems which are like more robust and experimenting. So I think that by having just one facilitator or having a very select core of facilitators with very high credit lines, essentially you're kind of putting Go into this bucket. You're saying it can only be used for these things. Whereas if you create a lot of different experiments with very low risk to the DAO by managing risk parameters and also trying to essentially amplify the value of decentralization, making sure that decentralization is at the core of any of these facilitators, I think that's really how you expand the design space. And so I would encourage people to think about how Go could be integrated into any smart contract. If there's a smart contract that you use today, whether it be a liquidity pool, different types of any type of liquidity market. Anytime there's funds basically stored inside of a smart contract, and think about how could this potentially be utilized to facilitate borrowing Go or minting Go against this type of collateral. And any type of experimentation is good experimentation.
That's cool. That's a good one. Pol, did you have anything to add to this?
No, not really.
Facilitators and
I agree. Like in the end, it relies, all of this, it relies on finding use cases or even creating them, right? Like on the situation we're in, like creating maybe even more powerful, because in the end, everything can be done and not much is done yet.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Very cool. Just I'm being wary of time now. I think we're running out of time. But let's go around the circle again for some hack ideas that you'd want to see. I mean, we've covered quite a bit of Go and some governance things, some facilitator stuff. Do you have any hack ideas that haven't really been mentioned yet? Maybe start with Andrew. I think you probably have the most ideas.
Yeah, well, I actually have a full presentation coming in a few hours, which
awesome.
is the main point of the presentation is actually going through the bounty tracks and giving specific ones. So I won't try to list the laundry list. I'll just plug my talk there.
Okay, all good. Yeah, so attend Andrew's talk if you want to hear all his ideas. Pol or Figue, did you have anything you want to add?
No, I think it's fine.
Yes, there was one question in the chat that I think might be good to answer. It was, why is the fact that Go is native to Aave is an advantage? And I think it really comes down to the features of the Aave protocol. Essentially, the Aave protocol allows you to have multiple collateral positions and multiple borrow positions within a single address. And this type of flexibility really does not exist for any other type of stablecoin. So I think that that's really the key advantage to being native to Aave, is essentially that you can leverage the flexibility and this really robust framework of risk parameters to really fine tune how you're able to create really advanced positions with lots of different collateral assets, lots of different borrow assets, and then also leveraging the Aave governance infrastructure, which we've talked about here.
I think there's also another element to this, which is really important. It's how Go potentially can be a cash machine. And we have to say it, I think it's important, what it represents for Aave. The way Aave works a lot is that historically people deposited governance token and other different crypto assets and then minted stablecoins against them, right? And Aave would take a certain BPS of the interest rates. What happens with Go is that instead of taking a certain BPS of the interest rates, Aave as a DAO just takes all of the interest rates and can redistribute them. So there is a lot more flexibility about the way the fee can be shared around the system. And something we haven't discussed much is I think the Aave DAO would highly be interested, at least personally I would be, into what can be done with the different fee systems, for example, from a facilitator standpoint. There's a ton that can be done, and I look forward to see what people will build on this front.
Awesome. Very cool. All right, I think we're just out of time. I think there's one question that just came in on the chat. Do you have any thoughts on utilizing facilitators to create a cross-chain bridge with a native token of Go using tools such as CCIP? Does anyone want to take that question?
Yeah, I think like this, like the ADI could be used to basically bridge Go, right? Like Go is controlled by the governance. It's if we deploy Go in other chains, it will also be controlled by the governance on those chains, right? And as we already have this cross-chain communication system, which uses different bridges, the aggregation of different bridges, which is more decentralized than just using one, it could be cool to see like the use of this for the bridging, as it's already there, right? And I think it could be used even without like changing it at all, most probably.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So that you're referring to the ADI, like Aave delivery infrastructure.
Yeah.
What's it called?
Yes.
ADI. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So Sina, who asked the question, check out ADI. if you want to.
Yeah, there is a method there to add allowed senders, which are the addresses allowed to do cross-chain communication on there. So basically, the need would be maybe add some other allowed sender for this specific kind of token bridging, and that's it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. All right, guys. So I'm just aware of time, and Kartik is just joined the chat.
It was an awesome discussion, and also thanks for making my life easier by monitoring the chat and just reading the questions directly. So I really enjoyed this thing, Andrew. I can't wait to see your talk about all the ideas that people can work on. And Pol and Figue, thank you for that amazing discussion. And David, thank you for moderating.
All good.
Yeah,
thank you for having us.
Awesome.